Welcome back to another Blu-ray and DVD update. Actually, I think it's all Blu-rays. I partook of a lot of the sales in Severin and Vinegar Syndrome over the last few months, so I need to catch up on some of these videos. First up is Vi, which is based on a Russian film from the 60s, based on a novel by a guy named Gogol that predates Bram Stoker's Dracula, of all things. It's about a wannabe priest that it's not clear, but I think he basically kills and rapes this girl, and then she comes back for revenge essentially from the grave, and he spends 3 or 4 nights in this monastery trying to protect himself from the demons and from her. Very, very interesting, very, very interesting film, and I commend Severin for releasing this. It was outstanding. Nice slipcover. Definitely, if you don't have Vi and you're into vampire films, this is something to check out. It's got a number of special features, including about a 20-minute discussion by Richard Stanley on the movie, as well as 3 or 4 shorts, Russian shorts from the early 1900s that are interesting as well. Great release, though. Really liked it. Okay, next up is Severin's release for Robo War, which is a hilarious mashup of an Italian ripoff of basically Predator and RoboCop combined. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it the hell out of it. Of course, it's rock bottom production values, but it's so much fun. It's got interviews with the director, the writer, number of great special features. Highly recommend this release as well. It's a Blu-ray DVD. Actually, it's got the. I think it's the soundtrack that goes with the film. Great release. Next up is Mill Creek release for Mothra, which Mill Creek. I mean, this is like $14 on Amazon. I couldn't resist it. It's a nice release, steelbook. A lot of people have shown this off, Celluloid Terror being one. Great film. And in fact, Mothra takes a lot of crap from kaiju aficionados and others, but I think rewatching this, I watched the Japanese version and then I watched the audio commentary on the American cut. The miniature sets of this film are really some of the best in the whole kaiju Toho franchise, in my opinion. It was really a refreshing watch. I enjoyed it a lot, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to enjoy it, just because of the stigma of the butterfly. But I really thought it was great. So I recommend this release as well. Okay. Next up is another Severin release, and that's the Night Killer, or from the slipcovers you can see it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Another Claudio Fragassi film. This one is much more of a melodrama. It's got a lot more. It's a slasher film, but it's got more melodramatic elements to it than you would expect. It's cheesy. But I think it's pretty well done. The killer's mask is silly, but it's really based on the characterizations, both of the killer and the target. I enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. And there, of course, there's interviews with the director and his wife, who wrote the screenplay. Definitely recommend that one. Next up is another Nazi exploitation film, The Beast in Heat, and this one is, oh my god, man, this is probably, of all the ones I've seen, maybe the sleaziest. You've got this muscular little dwarf that's kept in a cage, and he's basically raping all these women in this Nazi concentration camp. Ridiculous stuff. I mean, just bizarre stuff, but entertaining. I mean, I don't know what to say other than there's something wrong with me, because I found it very entertaining. But I mean, you can't take this stuff seriously. It definitely breaks a lot of the tropes that cultural tropes and things like that. It's a piece of work. I mean, you have to see it to believe it. Nazi exploitation at its best. This actually has a 90-minute. I think one of the if that Nazi exploitation is not really up your alley, but you're kind of curious about it, I would still recommend this release because it has a 90-minute film, additional special feature that covers the whole Nazi exploitation genre. So I definitely recommend that. And of course, Severin just keeps knocking it out of the park with these releases. Next up is a Vinegar Syndrome release, The Suckling. The Suckling, this is another film that really, if you have any kind of social issues, these films just have no really grace about them. I mean, this is basically about it's an abortion movie. Essentially, it's kind of an anti-abortion movie. You've got this fetus that was aborted and it ends up in this chemical waste, and it comes back to kill a bunch of people. It's ridiculous. It's a silly movie, but again, this is what I found strangely entertaining. Crazy stuff. It's got a commentary track, and it's got a number of other special features, interview with the director, that type of thing. Strange, bizarre film, but funny. In a kind of a politically insensitive way, it's funny. All right, back up to another Vinegar Syndrome title I picked up was Welcome Home, Brother Charles, and then MMA, a couple blaxploitation films, both very good, 70s grindhouse stuff. Highly recommend this release as well. Yeah, it's a Blu Ray DVD combo. Okay. Next up is Evil Town with the slipcover. This is a really interesting, nice slip. I mean, this thing is, you could probably drive a nail with this slipcover. It's really nice. Evil Town is a late 80s, I think early 90s slasher film. It's okay. I mean, it wasn't a memorable watch for me, but I thought it was okay. And once again, Vinegar Syndrome has a host of special features, so it's a nice release. Definitely something you want to pick up. Next up is Emmanuel and Francois. Joe D'Amato. It's another Severin release. And you've got the Blu Ray there. It's not really my cup of tea, but I thought it was an interesting one-time watch. And again, it's got interviews with number of characters. George Eastman particularly is in this interview. It was okay. Okay. Next up is James Hebert's The Survivor, which is about a pilot that survived a plane crash, supposedly, and he's trying to figure out what happened in the plane crash and why he survived, that type of thing. It's kind of got a TV horror movie feel to it, but very engaging film. Definitely recommend this. Also, this is a Severin release. It's got a commentary track and a number of special features on it. Definitely recommend The Survivor. Another sleazy film that came out some time ago and I just didn't pick it up. The price was right. This was Severin's The Sinful Dwarf. This is basically a porno film, practically. I mean, there's a cut of the film that's the X-rated, then there's the R-rated as well. It's sleazy. It's definitely sleazy. Apparently the guy that plays the Sinful Dwarf was quite a ladies' man, which was surprising. All right, next up is a Peter Cushing film that I had never seen before, and that's The Uncanny. There's old Peter Cushing. It's a cat movie, basically about Peter Cushing is obsessed with the fact that cats are going to dominate the world, and they're out to basically eradicate mankind. Strange film. It's an anthology film with a wraparound story. Pretty good, not bad. And this came with the release, of course, came with a number of these little poster cards. Next up is Saint Bernard, which is a really bizarre film. I'm not sure what to make of this. This is at first, when I first saw it, I thought, well, it must be a killer Saint Bernard, right? Nah, it's not about that. It's a wacky psychedelic trip. I'm not sure what to make of it, to be honest with you. It's one of those films that I think requires multiple viewings. I didn't warm up to it initially. It's just so freaking strange. I don't know what to make of it. Next up is a 7 release for Escape from a Women's Prison. Women, Chicks in Chains. This is another sleazy Chicks in Chains film, but I definitely recommend it. Particularly if you like that kind of stuff. The Euro Chicks in Chains. Kind of light on special features. There is a trailer and a couple of interviews. Now here's an interesting one I picked up from Severin. This is Master of Dark Shadows, which is a documentary about Dan Curtis. Very interesting documentary about Dan Curtis. In fact, I definitely recommend this. This is an MPI release. I may have can't remember where I picked this up, whether it was from Severin website or from Diabolic, but yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Definitely recommend it. And here's another documentary, which is Intervisions: The Trail of Dracula. This is a DVD. This gives you a really good overview of all the novels and movie portrayals of Dracula. Pretty much stuff I already knew, but it was interesting to kind of revisit it. And you've got one of the things I liked about this is it's got about 90 minutes of trailers, vampire trailers. So even if the documentary itself is kind of kindergartenish for people like us, I mean the trailers alone is worth the purchase, I think. Picked up Shin Godzilla finally, and I like Shin Godzilla. I know people give it crap because of the original film. Basically, the initial monster is much Google-eyed and kind of silly-looking, until he morphs into Godzilla. But I liked the political part of the film, where it's criticizing the government and their lack of initiative and lack of ability to move within the bureaucracy. Kind of drags the film a little bit, but I enjoyed it. I think the reality is that governments, as they get bigger, tend to become more bureaucratic, and that interested me. Anyway, I thought it was a good Godzilla film. I liked it a lot. I wish this had some more special features on it. Next up is a Klaus Kinski film, Web of the Spider, which is a remake of a Barbara Steele film, basically about a guy that takes a bet to stay in a castle that has ghosts. And it's a remake of, I think it's a remake of Castle of Blood. It's not as good. Klaus Kinski plays Edgar Allan Poe in this. It's still a good watch, but it's just not quite. It doesn't have quite the punch that the original film had, but I still recommend it. This has an audio commentary track as a special feature as well. And then finally, Vinegar Syndrome release of Demonoid. Demonoid is it's a marginal film. I mean, it was okay as a one-time watch. It's got a host of special features. Very kind of an amateurish film, but a decent one-time watch. I think the poster art and cover art's better than the film. Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap up my update. And if you've seen any of those films, let me know what you think. Appreciate you watching.